Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. You ready for another episode of my Bigfoot sighting? Alright then, let's do this.
Seen a bunch of run-down no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, loves and the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah.
If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to mybigfootsighting.com.
My Bigfoot sightings began in 1989. I was a 19-year-old wild child. Spent many years in the woods, hunting, fishing, camping. I met a girl back then, and she lived on this, it was a dirt road back then. Now it's paved. She lived towards the end of it, near a state forest. And there was only maybe one street light on the whole road. Very dark road, rural, out in the country. Not too many people lived in that area, maybe 20 to 30 at tops, maybe more. She asked me to come up to the house one night and, have cookout, swim in the pool, that. And so I was sure, yeah. And she told me she lived on Paddy Hollow Road. I said, oh, I know where that road is. Okay, yeah. Where do you live? I lived out towards the end of it. All right. So I gathered up my tent and my sleeping bag, and I started walking out to her house, which was about, I'm going to guess, like 5 miles maybe from my home. And I brought the tent and sleeping bag because in case her mom didn't want me to spend the night, for whatever reason, I'd set up a camp, and instead of walking all the way back to my house in the middle of the night, I'd just go to my camp. I'd get up in the morning and go visit my girl. So the night went well. We visited. We had a good time. The time came, I asked her mother if I could spend the night, and she denied it. So, okay, no problem. And I walked down the road to where my camp was set up. Now, my camp I had set up right offside the road up on a power line section. And if you've ever been to New England, our woods are pretty thick. In some places, you can't see through it. You can't even crawl through it. It's like a jungle. It's like a rainforest. It's really thick environment. So I get up to this power line section, crossed it, and got into the tree line. I found a natural little opening right there. Perfect spot. Set my tent up. And I had no fire, no flashlights, just a tent and a sleeping bag. And I get in my tent, light up a cigarette, and I'm sitting there thinking about the night, the wonderful night we had, and the fun, the laughs. And I was really just in a great mood. I didn't even mind camping out there and not being able to spend the night with her. I was totally fine with it. So I finished my cigarette, zipped up the tent, and laid down. And my feet were by the door of the tent. As I'm laying on my back in my sleeping bag, my head was towards the back. And I'm laying there listening to the night sounds and the owls and crickets. And I started hearing branches breaking up above me about, I'd say maybe 100 yards or so. I could hear branches breaking. And I thought, well, I must have spooked a deer or something while I was coming up to my camp. Didn't really think too much more about it. And then I could hear it, like, getting closer, like it was continuing, and it was getting closer. And pretty soon I could hear that it was bipedal. And every time it would step down on the ground, it would crush branches and leaves and stuff, but the ground would shake. And I was like thinking to myself, well, is this a moose coming down to my camp? What's going on? And I was real quiet, just listening. And as this thing's getting closer, what I thought was a moose, I realized there's only 2 steps, not 4. Is this bipedal? Is this somebody walking to my camp? How can they even walk out here? There's no lights. It's pitch black. Pretty soon, it's so close to my tent, my campsite, every step the ground would vibrate, and I could hear this elongated breath that was like somebody with bronchitis or asthma, an asthmatic person. But these breaths were insanely long, like a 20-second inhale and a 20-second exhale. I mean, it was bizarre. I didn't even know what this was walking up to my tent. And the breathing sound was really bizarre. And I'm thinking, is this a sick animal? What's going on here? And I didn't say anything. I was just in my tent listening. My feet are at the door. And this thing, whatever it was, it walked right up to the side of my tent and started pushing down on the top of my tent right where my head was. And I'm looking at the tent as it's coming closer and closer and closer. It's pushing right down to my face just about. And I lost it. I punched whatever that was pushing through my tent. I backhanded it with a closed fist. And when I hit it, it felt like I hit concrete. And when I swung and screamed at it to get out of here, it just stood there. It didn't make another sound. And I was sitting there in terror. I was so terrified, I couldn't move. I was frozen in my sleeping bag. And it walked about 10 steps to my left. And I am trembling inside. I am freaking out, like, what is going on? I have no gun, no knife, no flashlight, no nothing. And I'm a 19-year-old kid who is just like, I'm just sitting there in complete traumatized, like, well, I don't know what's about to happen. This thing's going to come through my tent, whatever it is going to kill me. It walked like 10 feet to the left and stopped. And I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. I didn't smell it. I was so terrified to open up my tent and look out. I had to force myself to pull the zipper down. And I counted on the count of 3. On the count of 3, I unzipped my zipper about 6 inches and looked outside to where that thing had walked over to my left. I'm looking over. I can't see nothing. It's pitch black out there. There's a little bit of moonlight, a little bit of starlight, moonlight, but it's dark in the woods in New Hampshire on some of these places, these rural country places, just like anywhere in the country. I bolted out of that tent and I ran down through the woods. I fell I don't know, once or twice, did like a tuck and roll, got back up, running some more, got to the road. I was only maybe 60 yards from the road or so. I landed in the road when I was falling through the woods down onto the road. And I remember being, it hurt when I fell because I got cut by stuff, sticks and stuff. Blackberry bushes and thorns, whatever. It was horrible. I landed in the road, and I was like, oh my God, and I started running. And that thing was right beside me as I'm running down the road. This thing, and I'm running full speed. I'm in fight or flight mode, and I'm flight mode, and I'm running like I stole something. And I don't steal. But this thing was right beside me, running through the brush and the thorns, and a swamp that was on one side of the road was a swampy, boggy area. Really nasty, thick. It wasn't even open. It was just thick, nasty, boggy area. This thing plowed through that like it wasn't even there. I could hear the giant footsteps as I'm running. It sounded like it's walking. It didn't sound like it was running. It sounded like it was walking, but I'm running. Every time I stopped to take a breath, that son of a thing was right there. I was like, no way, dude. I kept running. I stopped maybe twice where that thing was paralleling me. Every time I stopped, it would stop. It was right there. I see a street light coming up, and there is a road off to the left. That road goes even further out into the woods and stuff. It's back road. I get to that. I was telling myself, just get to that street light where I can see. And it was right there. I'm talking like 25 feet off the road in the swamp, running right beside me. Yeah, a person couldn't run through that even with a flashlight on. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what this thing was doing. It was bizarre. It was unhuman. I've spent many years in the woods. I've had moose walk right up to me. I've had bear run away from me. I've seen all the local animals and heard all the local animals. Whatever this was nothing that I had ever encountered in the forest. And this is right outside. This is like 5 miles outside of the center of the small city I live in. This is right outside city limits. And this thing, I got to the street light. Anyways, I get to the street light. This thing was paralleling me, running beside the road, pacing me. I get to that street light. I took some breaths, and I got a couple breaths, and then I hear some branches. I just took off down the road again, headed towards town. And I'm running, and I didn't hear that thing beside me. So I'm thinking that, I don't know, it just turned around or it stopped or whatever. I don't know if it left the area or if it just stopped and watched me keep running. I don't know. But I ran all the way home, basically. I walked once I got tired. Once I got into town where there were street lights on the road and more houses, I felt more at ease. I didn't run anymore. I was just walking really fast, and I kept looking behind me. But once I got into an area where there was a lot of houses and residents, I wasn't looking behind me anymore, and I was just telling myself, just get home. Oh my God. I'm not going back there again. I am never going back there again. No way. I get home. Tried to sleep that night. Couldn't sleep. I remember not being able to sleep well at all. Just kept thinking about it. Just running it over in my mind over and over and over all night long. I have never in my days of camping solo ever had anything come up to my tent and do what it did. I mean, I struck it with my hand. It didn't run away. It just walked like 10 steps and just stood there waiting for me to, I don't know what it was doing, but when I'm talking scared, I was scared. I don't know if I wet my pants or not, because from running and sweating and all, I don't know. But I get home anyways. I woke up in the morning and my mother was there, and how was your night last night at Francine's? And then I said, it was all right. I didn't want to talk about it. Where's all your stuff? Where's your camping gear and stuff? Fishing pole and stuff. I left it. You left it? Why would you leave it? Why? You never leave your stuff around. Why did you do that? Are you going to go back and get it? No, I don't care about it. I said, I don't care about it. I'll just get more or whatever. I don't care. My mother thought that was the oddest thing, because she knows me. She knows how I cherish my belongings, whatever I have, especially my outdoor gear. I cherish it. It's all special stuff to me. I don't let people use it. I don't loan things out unless somebody desperately needs it. Like, obviously if they need help or something, obviously, but, so she thought that was strange that I didn't go back. Well, I left my stuff in the woods. I would never do that. We didn't litter. We were brought up right. We didn't litter. We don't kill things. We don't eat. We treat each other and treat strangers nice and be polite to people and be honest, work hard. And that's how I was raised. You don't sass your parents. You have respect for your grandparents and your parents and strangers and people. And you carry yourself in a professional manner. And I came from a family that, that's how we were raised. And my great grandparents and my grandparents, they were all dairy farmers and lived on farms and had big families, and family traditions are strong in my family. Even to this day, in this day and age, we still live by those firm, strong family traditions. So that was my first encounter with something strange back in 1989, and it was in Claremont, New Hampshire. It's actually West Claremont, New Hampshire, towards the Connecticut River, probably a mile or so, couple miles from the Connecticut River, which is a beautiful river valley that cuts through New Hampshire and Vermont. It's the border. And it's full of wildlife, it's great for boating, fishing, hiking, camping, the whole 9 yards. It's a beautiful place. I've called it my home my whole life. I've been all around the country. I've been to Alaska. I've been to Canada. I've been to Jamaica. I've been to places some people haven't been. And this place always was home to me, and it always is. I live at the foothills across the river from Ascutney Mountain. And that is where I had my second encounter, approximately, I'm guessing, 10 years after my first. Maybe less than that, maybe 7 years after my first encounter. I was working at Ascutney Mountain, which is in Brownsville, Vermont. It's the steepest monadnock in the East Coast. It's a little over 3,000 feet. Everything from halfway point of the mountain is double diamond trail. They don't allow machinery anywhere past the halfway point. I know that because I made snow on the mountain for 9 years. I was a part of mountain maintenance, snowmaking, lift operations. I did multiple tasks there, multiple jobs, met a lot of great people. It's a great job for anyone. It's a career. It's a great career for anyone. If you love the outdoors, it's a great career for you. If you're young and love the outdoors, it's a great career for you. Make a career out of it. I worked on multiple mountains in my career. I've worked at Ascutney Mountain, Sunapee Mountain, Okemo Mountain, and Ragged Mountain. Ascutney and Okemo Mountain are in Vermont. The others were in New Hampshire. I was known as one of the best snowmakers in that area. And I was working at Mount Ascutney through the 90s. All the way up through the 90s. And we had a 6 or 7 man crew, I believe, at the time, on the night crew. And there was the same amount, or possibly a couple more, on the day crew. I had worked both. At this point in time, I was working the night shift, which was 7 to 7. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I would usually work an hour over to help clean up and whatnot towards the end of the night. So there was one night up there, and it was back in, well, I'm going to say the month was January, February, because snow guns were in full operation. We had a lot going on one trail that night, probably like 20 guns. 18 guns maybe going on one trail. So we were just focusing on that one trail at this particular night. The guys had gone up on their gun run. We had a man down there at the base, his name, I'm not going to say his name, but he was like our lift guy. He would run us up the lift where we needed to go, and he would keep the compressor full of fuel, make sure everything's going good down at the base. Water pressures, make sure everything's running for us. So we're up there. The guys went up on their gun run, and they come down, and me and this young employee, he was about 18, fresh out of high school, gung-ho, great guy. Anything you ask him to do, he'd do it. He'll climb a tree, whatever he needed. Dig a hole, he'd dig a hole. Turn some wrench, whatever you needed. The boy was right there. He was one of my best snowmakers. There was a few of us that were like that. And me and him were at the mid-station, checking the pressures, cleaning up some frozen hoses, blowing them out with the air line. We had a bunch inside that would be thawing out, and we'd periodically, as we're taking our gun runs, stop and, check the pressures, write all your pressures down, clean up the place, grab some hoses, wrap them up, yada, yada, yada. So me and Joel were in there doing that, and the guys come down through their gun run, and they walked by and did this, hello, hey, talked to you, got the information and whatnot. How do they look? How's the guns look? How's the snow look? Good. All right, good. Go on down to the bottom. Everybody can dry off for a half hour or so, and we'll get back to it. And that was the routine. You do a walk down the mountain, checking all your snow guns and your snow, making sure nothing's buried up and the snow looks good. Snow is the right quality snow. And you're working with the wind, you're working with the elements, you're working with everything. And as they get down the mountain, they get to the bottom after their gun run, and they go into the base lodge, and they take off all their wet clothes, put them in the dryers, and dry off for a minute or so, 30 minutes or so, have a cup of coffee, whatever, warm up, maybe get some food in you, whatever you needed to do. And then after that 30 minutes or so, back up on the hill you go for another hike down the mountain, checking your guns. That was the routine all night for 12 hours. So the guys did that, and they're all downstairs warming up. And I get a call from the guy who was running the lifts for us, because I told him we're all set. You can go down below and, get a coffee or whatever, warm up, and we'll be ready to go in about 30 minutes or so. You can run us back up the lift. All right. So he was a Vietnam veteran. He had shin splints. So he would take his time down the mountain when he walked. He took one step at a time. And that didn't bother me a bit. Of course, he's a great guy to work with. So he said he was headed down and stuff. Okay, me and Joel continued fluffing up the hoses and cleaning stuff up. And we were in the pump house at mid station. And then as about 5 minutes go by, 5-10 minutes maybe goes by, and I get a call on the radio. I won't say names, but he says, I can give you the radio handle. My radio handle was Mad Dog. So he calls on the radio. Such and such a Mad Dog. Such and such a Mad Dog, come in. And I answered it. Yeah, go ahead. He's like, hey, on your way down, watch out for that moose. Ran right in front of me. Okay, yeah, got it. Be careful on your way down. Okay. So I'm looking at my partner and I'm like, is the guy drinking or something? I'm like, I've never seen a moose up this part of the mountain. Not saying that they're not here, but I've worked here 9 years and I've never seen one. I've never even seen moose tracks up this part of the mountain. They're usually down in the lower ends, but for whatever, I was, who knows, who knows? I don't know if it was a moose that ran in front of him or if it was a black bear. We got big black bear up here. Now, mind you, we're in the middle of the night on the side of a mountain there, ski resort mountain, middle of the night, middle of the winter. So it's not a bear. What could it be? I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know what he's talking about. I've never seen no moose up here. I don't know what the guy's talking about. Whatever. Me and my partner finished up what we were doing. We thought like, well, we didn't know what to think. I don't know what the guy saw, what he's talking about. Whatever. So we're walking down to the base lodge to, go warm up. By the time I get down there, I can tell them other guys to suit up and, get on another run, get on it. So me and my partner are walking down the trail. We take this little side cut trail off to the left, and that goes to another trail, which ends up, it's pretty much, once you get to that trail, you walk down that trail, you come out right in front of the base lodge. So that was the route I always took. So that's why I just took that route. And we walked that little trail. We walked that little shortcut trail to this other trail. And once we got to that trail, right where the trees, we come out of the tree line and we're on that trail. We hear this sound that was like an air raid siren. But yet it was like, almost like somebody was imitating an air raid siren. I don't know. I can't, it started out low sounding, went up to a high pitch, and then it declined back down to a low pitch. When I'm talking like this thing was loud, this thing echoed through Brownsville Valley, like the whole town. You could hear this thing over the snow guns that are going off up on the hill. I mean, this thing had some volume to it. For me to even hear that, we both stopped and we looked behind us, like up the mountain, you know, like where we just came from, mid-station. We looked, it was coming from mid-station. So we look up there with our spotlights. We're about 400 yards away from it at this point, from mid-station. And we shining our spotlights up through the mountain, looking. We're looking for eye shine. We're looking for anything, you know. We can't see, there's nothing. We don't see nothing. And, this thing screamed again. And I'm talking, this thing was 10 feet behind us. We didn't hear nothing come up on us. We didn't see nothing come up on us. But this thing did the exact same scream that we had heard seconds prior. And I'm talking every organ in your body vibrated. I'm talking my eyeballs vibrated, my heart, my stomach, my lungs, my everything. Everything vibrated. I had never felt anything like that except standing in front of a full stack at a concert. You know, the bass player, you know, I mean, like, this was over 100 decibels. Way, way, way over 100 decibels. I mean, this thing rocketed through you like, whatever they call that, infrasound or ultrasound, infrasound, whatever they call it, infrasound, because everything vibrated. You didn't just hear this thing, you felt it. And it ripped right through me and my partner, and we jumped right out of our skins. Flashlights went flying, and we are peeling it down the mountain. We are running for our lives. And I'm talking, when you're a snowmaker, you got Koflak boots on, which are like ski boots with boot tread, or ski adaptable. They're mountaineering boots. And to try and run in those things is hard. It's very difficult to try and run in those for a long period of time. But we ran with our gear on. And I was about 8 feet in front of my partner. And he's screaming, "Stop, wait, it's gonna get me! It's gonna get me! It's gonna kill me! Wait, it's gonna kill me!" And I didn't dare look behind me. And I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of not looking, stopping and looking. But I was a 20-something-year-old guy who had just experienced something I'd never experienced before. It was terrifying. And we were both running for our lives. And like I said, I was a little bit quicker than the guy, and I was about 8 feet in front of him, running full speed down that mountain. And he's screaming at the top of his lungs that this thing's going to grab me. Help! And I just kept yelling at him, "Don't fall down. Keep running. Don't fall down. We're almost there." And we were just, we were headed right for the base lodge. And man, I don't know if he fell or if he slowed down or what happened, but I come busting through the door of the base lodge. Everybody's hanging out in the room with their music going, blasting. We were screaming the whole way down the mountain. And I go into my office and I'm shaking like a leaf and I'm just telling myself, "What was that?" And I'm sitting there just drilling myself. I can't believe what just happened. What is that? And I'm trying to pour a cup of coffee and it's dumping all over me and my desk. And I just gave that up, and I'm grabbing. I was like in a state of like shock. I was like opening up my office, my desk drawers, and I'm grabbing all these implements they were to break ice, like a hammer, and I had a homemade icebreaker, and I had knife, and I had a Leatherman, and I'm packing up. I'm putting my hammers on and all these little icebreakers and things and screwdrivers. I'm like loading up, like ready to go in battle with something. And then I realized that Ain't none of that's going to do anything to whatever that is. And as I'm doing all this, and this is all happening in seconds, mind you, a partner comes busting through the door, and he is completely white from head to toe. Tears are just flowing down his face, and he is in a state of freaking trauma, shock, and he grabs me and shakes me in front of all the guys. And I was just like, I grab his hands. I'm like, dude, let go of me. Let go of me. I don't know what it was. But whatever it is, I mean, I hope it's gone because we got to go back up there in like a half hour. And I couldn't even believe that I was even saying that or thinking it. But, I'm a hardworking man, and I was just thinking about my job, and whatever that is, I hope it's gone. Whatever that thing is, I hope it's gone because I can't go home right now. I can't go anywhere. I got all these guns running on the mountain. I got men I'm watching over. Their lives are in my hands. My life's in their hands when we're running these guns and doing our job. So I weren't going nowhere. I mean, I'm running the night crew here. And this guy looked at me when I said, I don't know what it is, but we got to go back up there. He looked at me like I had three heads, and he's in full crying mode, and he's like, you're out of your friggin' mind, dude. I'm never coming up here again. And he grabs his time card and rips it through the time card machine. He busts out through the door into his Jeep, which was open. He had trunk open. He had stopped. He peels out of there. Peels right out of the driveway. He's like a maniac. He's doing like 100 right out of there. Swerving, he's all over the road because there's fresh snow everywhere, and he is gone. And everybody's looking at me that's in the base lodge. They're all looking at me. What's going on, guys? What happened with you and him? What's going on? I was like, he's having a bad night. We guys, suit up, guys, suit up. We got to get up there and check these guns. It's friggin' 15 to 14 degrees, whatever. These guns are like pounding snow, like you can't keep up with it. We got to get up there and get on these guns. I don't know what's wrong with him. Never mind him. He'll be back tomorrow or whatever, and we'll work it out. Let's go. So everybody's just suiting up. They don't know what just happened up there. They have no clue what just happened up there. So everybody's suiting up. And I'm like, all right, well, I get my gear on, and I'm nervous. Oh, my God, I'm nervous. I'm sweating bullets. And, okay, my coworker there, he's gone for the night. I don't have to worry about him. He's gone for the night. I don't know where he's headed home. I hope he makes it home safe. I didn't have a phone or a phone to call him, his number or anything. But I weren't thinking of that. I'm just like, okay, I got to get up I got to go back up this mountain. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, I wish I had a firearm. That's all I kept thinking. God, I wish I had a firearm. But you can't have that on the job. You're on the job. You can't have firearms, So I'm like, I'm riddling all these things through my head like that as I'm gearing up. And we go up. We did a gun run. And during that initial gun run, I had my head on a swivel, and I was freaked right out, man. I was ready to hear that thing again, whatever it was. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to hear that for the rest of my life. I was scared to be up there. And when I'm talking like, it was like my first encounter, like that type of fear, that like the fear of like, you're going to die fear. Like there's no way around it. If you don't get out of here, you're going to friggin' die. That's the fear I had. But I felt a little better with the guys around me, snowmakers, and we're all working, doing our thing, and I was staying with them. I wasn't lagging behind and picking up someone's slack or, just taking my time and doing my work, doing a proper good job and making sure all the hose, and all that. I weren't doing that. I was right with these guys, like right with them, all the way down the mountain. Come about 7 o'clock in the morning, that was only a few hours. So I'm guessing like 3 or 4 in the morning is when that incident happened. The screaming, the air raid siren scream, the mother of all screams. This thing was insane. I had never heard nothing like it besides an old World War II air siren that somebody cranks up. So this was inhuman, beyond human capacity, the craziest vocalization that you'd ever hear. And the infrasound, when it vibrated our organs, me and my coworkers, when we were sitting there getting hit with that was the most terrifying thing to me, because I had never felt my eyeballs vibrate, my tongue, my throat, my everything. And this thing was behind us like 10 feet doing that. I mean, I literally, you could probably feel the breath of that thing. It was so freaking powerful. So 7 o'clock in the morning rolls around. Nothing else happened besides that one event. Nothing else happened in the night. It was a really scary, freaky night for me. And I did my gun runs with the rest of the guys like I normally did. And thankfully, nothing happened again. And I worked the mountain for a number of years after that. And nothing really crazy like that happened. But I will tell you, we never saw my coworker again. When he screamed at me that he was never coming up on this mountain again, that kid promised. He never did. I've never seen him to this day. And I don't think anybody else has either. Because I would have eventually gotten a hold of him and wanted to talk about that whole encounter with the guy if he wanted to. You know, I think about that nowadays. I think about, you know, what he's doing and you know, and how he's doing with it, and does he even think about it, or did he bury it away? Like when I was a kid, my tent encounter, after that tent encounter on Paddy Hollow Road in Claremont, I kind of just like, you know, I was a young kid and life took over, and I kind of buried that away or whatever. After a few days, I kind of just like, I didn't like totally forget about it, but I guess, you know, I don't know. It's just kind of like, I just kind of like blocked it out and just went on with my everyday life, you know, and everyday occurrences or whatnot. And then I got the job at the mountain and was working up there for a number of years, and then had that strange encounter with my coworker who ended up quitting, and I never seen him since. And the screaming, you know, and the thing chasing us down the mountain. And that was just crazily bizarre. I've never heard anything like that before, and except for on the YouTube and stuff, where closest thing I've heard it, because I looked it up after that. No, not after that, but I started getting into Bigfoot about 10 years ago when I had 3 other strange encounters not far from my hometown of Claremont. I lived about 7 miles away up in the woods, real woodsy area called Unity, New Hampshire. Unity, New Hampshire is a great place. There's probably 1,000 residents, all country, just nothing but country. There's no country store. There's just a post office and a school. That's all there is there. Wonderful place. I lived there for about 4 years. But I've also visited the whole area. Like I said, I grew up in this area, so I've been all around this area my whole life, hunting and fishing, all these woods, all these connecting counties and towns. You know, I've been everywhere, as the song says. So I'm living up there. We lived in a solid log home, built a farm. Me and she's my ex-wife now, my wife at the time. And she wanted a farm, a mini farm. I said, a mini farm? That's awesome. yeah, let's do it. So we had a barn built. We had a garage built. There was a cinder block, half walls and a pad. So we had to finish the garage when we moved into the property. We had to finish the garage, and then we built a barn for our upcoming animals. And it all went smooth. It was great. And we had, at one time, we had 2 sets of mini horses and 1 rider horse. We had some goats, the mini goats, 4, I believe, 4 of the goats, and numerous chickens, probably about 55 chickens of different varieties. So I had the best eggs going. I mean, I had the best eggs around because I had all these variety of chickens, man. We had, your Easter egg chickens and, all these good chickens that laid, good eggs, hardy chickens. We had turkeys. I believe I started out with 8 turkeys, I believe, and I lost a couple. But chickens, turkeys, we had a couple pheasant. We bought 2 peacock. And then, of course, we had the goats, the horses, and we had a little pig at one time who was house trained. His name was Felix. Probably one of the best pets I've ever had was that pig named Felix. Super smart. House trained. I mean, just a great pet. But I had a dog at the time, my dog Blazer. He was 120 pounds, I think, when he passed away. But he lived to be 14. He was with me his whole life. Everywhere I went, that dog was with me. He was a tuxedo dog. He was all black with a white chest. And it was a great, great dog. Black lab and blue nose pit bull. 120 pounds, fearless. I mean, that guy would tangle with anything. He wasn't aggressive, but if an animal come into the yard, he's protecting his flock or he goes right into the mode. So I mean, he tangled with all sorts of stuff out there in Unity. Porcupines, bobcats, and you name it. I'm sure he was chasing it or either confronted something in the woods or whatever. I mean, he was always there on the farm. Great dog. Anyways, he was with me. So we had all the animals, and then they started. We lived on a hill off of, what would that be? Unity Springs Road. We lived on a hill called Glidden Hill. And we were about 600 feet off the road up on this hill. And the barn was off to the right of the house. The garage was off to the left. And there was a little woodshed right behind the house. And I built a nice little fire pit out there, out back. And nice little beautiful area. Oh, just gorgeous, gorgeous piece of property. Sunsets every night. When we first moved there, the deer were in the front yards, in the fields. We had 2 pastures there was a driveway that went up, and there was 2 little pastures alongside of it going up the hill. It was cleared. And then there was stone walls as a border on each side, stone walls that went up through the woods. And then there was multiple stone walls up there that were connecting, like the old livestock farm, stone walls, the tall ones. And there was a couple of wells up there too that I had found, which was pretty cool. Livestock wells and stuff. There's a lot of history there, a lot of history on that property. So we got all these animals, and we're loving the farm life and the cabin life. It was a solid, beautiful log home, handmade. They did some logging up top of the hill. Some company was doing some major clear cutting operation going on. And that's when I started noticing things happening. The first sign of something strange was all the wildlife disappeared. I couldn't figure it out because when we first moved there, there'd be deer in the yard. There's deer down in the pastures having their babies. I mean, it was a place for them to come and have their babies, and then they, and do their thing. And, partridge, turkey, black bear, bobcat, coyote, fox, owls, hawks, eagles, fisher cats, possums, raccoons, skunks, you name it. It's all there. The neighbor across the street even claimed that he saw a lynx one day. He took a picture of it, and I looked at the picture. That was a lynx, and some other people in the community had seen it too, and so that was verified that there was a lynx running around too, which is not uncommon for New Hampshire. Once in a while, people see them, but we thought that was neat that it was right there, right across the road from us, But anyway, so we had it was a beautiful place, lots of wildlife everywhere. And they started logging up top of the hill. And we noticed right off the bat, like, where's the deer? I don't see no deer anywhere. And then actually, really though, I haven't seen any turkeys either. And I haven't seen no partridge. Where's all the partridge? I mean, I love ruffed grouse. I'll eat that till the cows come home. I mean, God, that's great stuff to eat, and I was excited to move there and see all the partridge and turkey, walking around everywhere in the woods, and there's deer. I mean, this is a hunter's paradise, man. Totally. And then I just all of a sudden, bam, the woods are like dead, man. There's like nothing. Nowhere. No tracks, no nothing. Where's all the wildlife? It's weird. I don't know. Something's got them spooked. Something's scaring them off. I wasn't thinking Bigfoot or nothing. I'm thinking coyotes must be chasing the deer around. It must be a pack, close, running around, scaring things off. Because we do have a lot of coyote up here and up in Unity. These coyote are like, some of them can get 60 pounds. We're talking big coyotes, well fed. So, that's all I thought was just, it must be coyotes that spooked all the game. But no, it wasn't. I'm sitting out on the porch. As I did, it was a ritual to sit on the porch with my dog Blazer and, hang out, look for deer. And he wouldn't go chasing them. He might bark at them, but he was trained well enough not to go chasing off after them. But well, let me back up. Sorry. The first incident was the rock throwing. I was cutting wood at my woodshed, splitting wood, then throwing it in the shed. I'd split a bunch, and I'd grab it and throw a bunch of pieces up into the shed. And then I'd get up into the shed, and then I'd stack it all. And I was home alone at the time. I was alone with the dog. Blazer was right there. The sound of the splitter didn't bother him. He was just laying right there, kind of like underneath the woodshed, kind of, because it was elevated off the ground. And he's like, I'm just throwing wood into the shed and stacking it, get up there and stack it, and then I hear something hit the metal roof. And I didn't think nothing about it. I thought it was just acorn or a pine cone, and I just kept stacking wood, and I go outside and I fire up the splitter again, and I start splitting some more logs, what I needed just to fill the stack, and I shut it off, started throwing the pieces up into the shed, and then I had to climb like these 2 or 3 steps to get up into the platform. It was like a pole. It was like a pole shed, like poles and a roof, but no walls. And I had just put some planks up along the side, and make like not really a wall, but, a snow shield for the snow. So I just put some boards up all the way around it, kind of boarded it all in and cut myself a doorway. And, well, actually a couple doors were on it, doorways. And, so I'm in there stacking the wood, and I hear that something hit the roof again. And just by curiosity, I just went outside and looked around. I said, oh, I wonder, because the second rock, that was what got my attention, really. It was like the bang, bang. And I was like, well, what the heck was that? So I stepped outside, and I'm looking around, and I don't see any tree branches above my woodshed. So I'm like, okay, it's not pine cones. I had real big pine trees on the property all around the house, and, around the, in the wooded area was all these big trees, pine, ash, cherry, oaks. I had a lot of oaks, and maple, and, a lot of nice big trees. And there was nothing overhanging my woodshed. It was open. It was out in the open on the lawn. So grabbed the ladder that's right there, climbed it, looked up on the roof. There's two rocks the size of a large marble, like the large marbles. There's two rocks sitting on my woodshed. I instantly spun right around and looked right behind me, and I yelled, "Who's up there? You're on private property." I didn't hear a sound. I looked down. I was on the ladder. I looked down at my dog, Blazer, and when I said, "Who's up there?" Then now he came to attention when I yelled. He got right to attention, and he's looking right up into the woods. And I'm like, "Blazer, go get him. Get him." That dog would not go up there there's no way you're getting that dog up there. He was like, he started whining a little bit, but he wasn't like whining at the woods. He was like looking at me whining, and he kind of went between my legs, and I've never seen my dog do this. My dog's never done this. And he was like scared. He's scared. I've never seen my dog afraid. So I was like, "Go get him, bud. Go get him." And I used to say, bad man or whatever. Get the bad man, get the bad guy. So I'm like, bad man, bad man. I'm pointing to the woods. That dog would not move from my freaking feet. So he just wanted to leave. His tail was between his legs, and he was just like headed for the house, which was only about, 50 feet away. So I get him to the house, and I'm just puzzled. I'm just like, I don't know what those rocks are about. And I'm just thinking there's somebody in my woods. There's somebody messing with me, throwing rocks at me. So I call up my neighbor. His name's Rodney. I said, "Rodney, you got your kids home? Are they playing out in the woods or anything?" He's like, "No, they're not here." "Why?" "Oh, I just made up some story." I said, "Oh, I thought I saw somebody walking through the woods, so I didn't know if it was your boys or if it was, a hunter or somebody, someone trespassing, because I had signs up." So no, he's like, no, they're not here." "Okay, all right, thanks a lot, man." So I hung up with him, and I'm just like, the dog's in the house. You don't want to come out. So I grabbed my shotgun, walk up behind the woodshed up on my trail. I had a little path where I took my tractor and I'd bring down logs and stuff, little trail. Walk up the trail, and I'm pointing that gun. I'm literally pointing it in where, like the area behind my woodshed. As I'm walking up the hill, I'm scanning that area with my gun pointed. And I would never do that unless I was hunting something. But I'm not hunting something. I'm just looking around. But I was freaked out. Who's throwing rocks at me? And I'm yelling, "You're on private property. You got 10 seconds to show yourself," and there's nobody there. There is nobody, nowhere, nothing. There's nothing, nobody. And I'm like, what the? I sat there for a bit, just being real quiet and looking around, and I don't see nothing. I don't smell nothing. I don't hear nothing. So I'm like, all right, I don't know. I just felt uneasy then. So I backed out of there, and I went into the house, and I'm like looking at my dog. I'm like, dude, there's something weird going on around here. And I kept those rocks. I don't know what I did with them. I had them for a while. Those two little rocks. But so nothing happened after that. Like that night, nothing happened. I didn't notice anything happen. And I kept my eye out the window most of the night till I got tired and went to bed. You know, the wife came home and went to bed. And I had told her about it. I had told her what happened, and she was like, probably kids or something messing around. She didn't think nothing of it, whatever. So it was probably the night. I don't know exactly the dates or the times. Like 3 things happened, and I don't know if it was in the same week or 2 weeks period, or if it was like the same month. It's possible it was the same month or within a 2-month span. I'm really not sure at all on the dates, but this all did happen. And there was a few nights go by. I do remember that. And I'm out on the porch again with Blazer, having my nightly cigarette. The sun's just going down. Now it's starting to get a little dark, and now it's pretty much to the point of dark. And Blazer's sitting right beside me on the porch, and I'm in my rocking chair, and I'm sitting there rocking. And beautiful night, beautiful summer's eve, and crickets and stuff, and just beautiful night. The weather was warm. It was kind of a muggy night, and I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, Blazer stands right up. And his hair's sticking right up. And he's like staring right off across the yard into the woods. And he's just like, his hair's up right where his butt is, where his tail is. So that's why I know he's like alerted, or he's like not scared, but he when he gets, wound up, or, whatever, his hair sticks up, in that spot. And then they would stick up on behind it, on his shoulders and stuff. His hackles would stick up. That's what they call it. So he's all hackled up like that, and he's tense. He's looking straight, and I'm like, "What is it, bud? What is it?" And I didn't see anything. I thought like he saw an animal, so I'm kind of like looking for something small, or running around or whatever. And when I looked up at what he was looking at, I see from the shoulders up what looked like a person, like from the shoulders up. And it's weaving back and forth real fast, weaving back and forth like a deer would do. But this ain't no deer. It doesn't have ears. It doesn't have antlers. It's not a deer. And my backyard it had a light on my wood furnace. My outside furnace had a little light on the outside, and it was dim. It wasn't a bright light. It was a dim light. So the whole backyard was really dimly lit. It was spooky. I mean, the wife wouldn't even go out there at night to put wood in it because she said it was too dark out there. It's, spooky. And me, I mean, I just wasn't really afraid of the dark. I mean, it's, I'd go out with a flashlight or whatever and, throw some wood in there and, get back to the house. It's winter time or whatever when we're burning wood, fall into winter. So, and this was in the summer when this event happened, but I see this thing standing and it was weaving back and forth real quick, left to right, and then left. And then it would stay there for a minute, and then it would go back to the right. And then it would go, like just like what a deer would do if he's trying to see what you are, And the thing that caught me was that Blazer was pushing his face right through the screen door trying to get in the house. Whatever that thing was, it scared him. He just wanted to go in the house. And I'm like, oh my God, not again. What's going on? I couldn't figure it out. So when I opened up the door to let my dog in, my shotgun was right there, by the door. So I grabbed my shotgun and all I had in it was birdshot. But I was like, I didn't care. It was the only thing I had. So I grabbed that and I engaged around and I pointed right at that thing. And when I did that, all in seconds, we're talking like it only take me a second or a couple seconds to do this whole maneuver. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm looking and there's nothing there. I didn't hear nothing run away. I didn't see nothing like take off. I'm like just focused on that area with my gun. And I'm looking around. And I'm looking to the left. And I'm looking to the right. And I'm looking all over the place. And I was like, I think I might have said something. I don't know, like, hey, or whatever, like, who's out there? Who's there? Or something, or I might have said that. I'm not sure, but all I know is my dog was, peeled feet back into the house, boogied back in the house, and that thing disappeared. It was standing there for a minute and now it's gone. I don't know where it is. And that kind of freaked me out because I'm like, did it go behind my woodshed? Where is it? Did it duck down? Is it just behind the brush right there? There's something right there. There was something right there. My dog would not be freaked out like this. If it was an animal, he'd go, bull rush it. He'd go charge after it. So I'm like, I know it ain't an animal. Where this thing was standing, this is really bizarre because we had just bought the property and I was working the property. I was logging. I was clearing like a hillside. I cut down this hillside, part of it behind my house, so I could see further up into the woods. So there was an area that was really nasty. You didn't want to walk through it at all. You couldn't walk through it. It was hard to walk. You couldn't walk through it. It was dangerous. You had all these cut saplings. You had trees that were down in every direction. Because I was logging. I was doing all sorts of stuff. I was clearing the land. I wanted to clean it up, clear it out. And there was a little brook bed that cut through right there. And it was dried up at the time. And there was a couple of little pools of water, but it was pretty much just like a runoff brook bed. And it was all dried up. But the way it was like these bushes that grew on the side of the brook bed, and they were tall, and they kind of encased it, and you could get in there and sit down on a rock. I did. I found this big round boulder in there, and I would sit down in there on a hot summer day. I'd just sit in there for a moment and cool off, and if there was any pool of water or anything in there, I'd put some on my forehead or whatever and cool myself off, put some on my neck, And there was a spot where Blazer, because he was always with me, so me and him would sit in there, and of course, he's getting a drink, and I'm sitting there just cooling off for a minute. And I remember when I would sit on that rock, I could look through the brush, like look through the leaves, and I could see my porch. Clear as day, through the brush, I could see it. Now, if I stood up, I couldn't see nothing. I couldn't see no porch, no house, no. All I could see was brush. It was because it was tall. It was about, I'm guessing like 6 feet or more. It was tall, 6 feet. Because I'm 5'11". So this brush was 6 feet tall. I couldn't see over it. I'd have to stand up, like on my tiptoes and try and see over the top of it, but I really couldn't. And I was telling myself, someday I'm going to cut all this down, cut it all up. So, so I can see the little brook bed, and stuff. One of these days I'll get to cutting all this stuff. And so that was a little spot that me and Blazer would hang out. No one even knew about that spot. Like the kids, they didn't even know about it. And that thing that me and Blazer saw, that black, shadowy figure thing. I couldn't see hair or nothing. It was just it was blacker than the shadows that are out in the woods, the shadows and stuff on the trees. It was blacker than that. I was calling it. It was blacker than night. It was blacker than the blackest night. This thing was like jet black. Blacker than the black color you see at night. It was crazy. Like you could see it. Especially because it was moving. It was weaving back and forth. And that's what caught my attention. Because everything is still, and I'm sitting there just kind of enjoying the night and just daydreaming or whatever and thinking about things. And then I see movement and, Blazer. So, me and Blazer saw that movement. So where that thing was standing, it was the shoulders and the head were above the bushes. The bushes were 6 feet tall. So that thing had to have been like 7 feet to 7.5 feet tall. Maybe 8. It was tall. It was taller than those bushes. And I know how tall they were because I'd stand next to them and I couldn't see over them. So I'm like, dude, what? That thing's huge, whatever that is. And like I said, it disappeared. I had the gun aimed at it. And, like when I turned around, the movement of me grabbing my gun and then turning around and pointing across the yard, I didn't see it. It had disappeared. I don't know if it ducked down in the bushes or what. I didn't hear nothing run away. So I just had that creepy feeling that thing's right there. It's right there. It didn't go anywhere. Well, I got creeped right out. I didn't dare go across my lawn with that shotgun because all I had was bird shot. I ain't gonna, that's just for birds, I'm like, God, I need some firepower. I need some firepower. I need some bigger bullets. I need some firepower. So I went in the house, put the gun away. I locked the door. I went down the stairs. My dog was down in the basement where he's safe. That was his safe zone. He's down there in the basement. So I went down. I was hanging out with the dog, and looking at him and talking like, dude, I don't know what that was. I wonder if that's what threw the rocks. That's all I was thinking. Like, I don't know. I was just thinking all sorts of weird things. I had tools come up missing. I'd find them up in the woods. I'd lose animals periodically. And I figured it was predators, but Blazer would chase most of the predators away. So that kind of had me kind of puzzled. And one night, again, me and Blazer are sitting out on the porch. And I got the gun right there. This time I got slugs. And I hear the neighbor's dogs up the road. The neighbor had some German Shepherds. And this was about, I'm guessing like 9 o'clock at night, or maybe a little later. It was probably about 8 o'clock at night. And I hear the dogs going right off the hook. These 2 German Shepherds, they're barking their heads off like somebody's trying to break in, or I don't know. It sounded like a dog fight going on, right? And I never really I never noticed before that the guy had Shepherds because they were always quiet. So these dogs were going off up the road from me, and I could hear them. The way the land is, I was up on a hill, which was in a little valley. And there's hills on the other side, and there's like a swampy area that runs along the road. So it's like a valley with a swamp in the center, and 2 hillsides or ridges, on either side. Sound carried and echoed really, really nicely out there. The acoustics, just the way the area was, the way it was. So I'm sitting out there. And I hear those dogs. And then I hear the guy come out and he's like, quiet, get in the house. Come on. And I hear the dog. Oh, I don't hear the dogs walking, but I hear the screen door close. Because it's at night and it's real quiet. It was at night and real quiet, so you could hear every little sound, I hear that screen door close, it slammed. And it echoed, you could hear it. So I was like, oh, wow, he's got dogs. Okay, I wonder what those dogs are barking at. Man, that was crazy. A couple minutes after the dogs were in, I don't even know if it was a couple minutes. Could have been just a minute. All of a sudden, I hear what sounds like a bulldozer coming through the woods, with no engine. Just like, like a car crashing through the woods, taking out every tree in its path. Or like a giant, like in your mind, like a giant boulder that just come off the hill and it's just mowing down every tree in its path. And it was so loud. That was another night. Blazer peeled off and through the house. He was gone. He didn't want nothing to deal with it. He didn't want no. And I was like, not again. When I hear this thing, I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? What is this? I'm expecting like something to come busting through the trees, the tree line, and smash right through my woodshed, because that's what it sounded like. And I'm hearing bipedal giant footsteps. And when I heard that, and all the trees smashing and crashing and just complete destruction coming my way at 100 miles an hour, I was like bracing for impact. I didn't know what it was. Moose don't even make that kind of sound running through the woods. A bull moose, black bear don't. Nothing like that does. Except a car or a boulder or something, something, like something, a truck, flying off a ledge and going through the woods, like that's the kind of sound this thing was making. And I could hear footsteps, giant bipedal footsteps, as all these trees are coming down and branches are breaking. I'm hearing crash, 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 crash. And it's coming closer. It's going right past the backside of my house, right through the woods. And it ran right through that slope that I had clear cut with all those maple saplings sticking out of the ground like Fuji sticks, or whatever. Wicked dangerous area. I kept the kids out of there. There's fallen trees that are crisscrossed. There's sticks, little tree saplings sticking up everywhere that have been cut. They're like, a foot high off the ground. Crazy. You couldn't walk in it. You couldn't run in it. You couldn't do anything in it. But, I was in the process of clearing it all. And it was a mess. And that thing blasted right through all that, ran right through it. I don't even know how. And it got to the other side, and there was a stone wall, and then there's grass on the other side of the stone wall. There's a little area of grass that my neighbor had along her property. And whatever that was, when it got to that side, when it got through that whole slope and it got to that side, it was quiet. It was dead quiet. You'd hear periodic, like some stuff falling out of the trees and, I guess, what do they call it? Rubble from him crashing through the woods, whatever it was. There was existing things, branches and whatever falling. It's like right over there. It's somewhere. It's over there. It's looking at me. I could feel it friggin' looking at me. And I was like, no friggin' way, dude. No way. And I grabbed the gun. When that thing stopped and was over there, when I didn't hear it walking anymore and breaking all that stuff, I grabbed my gun and I'm looking, dude, and I'm looking and I don't see nothing. There's nothing there. I don't see no eye shine, no nothing. I don't know if once it got to my neighbor's property, it's all grass, and it's really quiet, so you can't really hear nothing walking over there. So I don't know if it just continued that way or if it was standing there looking at me, but I had the feeling that it was standing there looking at me. I felt like I was being watched, but that might have been just because I was afraid and, just freaked out by the whole event and all the other things prior that were going on. So, of course, Blazer's inside. He didn't want no part of that. And I'm standing there with my gun fully loaded, and I'm looking, and there's nothing there. And I was waiting for something to come through that tree line onto my lawn. I was going to blow holes right in it. I mean, I was primed and ready. I mean, I had the bead. I was ready. I was ready to shoot at anything that was coming in the yard. At this point, I didn't even care. I was hoping it was like a moose or something, but it wasn't. And I wouldn't have shot a moose. I wouldn't have shot anything like animal, wildlife. But that thing sounded like a giant coming through the woods. That's literally what it sounded like. A giant running through the woods, taking out every tree that's in his path. It's just blasting things out of the way. So I went up there in the morning. I didn't hear anything else. I went inside the house, tried to sleep, and I slept lightly because every little sound I heard, I was awake and listening. It was the weirdest time. It was the weirdest time for me. And whenever something happened, this is another thing, Vic. Whenever something happened, I was always alone. The wife wasn't there. The kids weren't there. It was always just when me and Blazer was always with me anyways. But I mean, whenever I was home alone in the evening, doing my chores and taking care of the farm animals and whatnot, something would happen. When people were there, the wife and the kids, when they were at home, nothing would happen. I can't explain it. To this day, I can't explain that. And I told them all about what was going on. The kids thought I was crazy. The kids thought I was going crazy or something. I don't know. They thought I was crazy. I'm sure of it. My wife, she believed me. She's not a believer of Bigfoot, but I think she believed me when I was telling her that there is a lot of strange things going on lately, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but we've got things missing. We got strange sounds, strange things going on. It was really bizarre. Eventually I left the property, and I haven't really had any. I've been out in the woods quite a few times, deer hunting and stuff. I wanted to say that after my first tent, I call it the tent encounter, when that happened in '89, it kind of freaked me out for a little while, and I was a little afraid of going out in the woods or whatnot by myself. But I got over that over time. Like I said, I just kind of blocked that out and got over it, And then after the Ascutney, the Mount Ascutney encounter, I was downright terrified to go out in the woods at night. You wouldn't catch me out in the woods at night. And I hunted deer for years, and I was not in the woods at dark. I was out of the woods before dark. And you couldn't catch me camping alone anymore. I wouldn't even go camping. Even with some friends would ask me to go camping, and I called it off. I was like, no, I don't. I made up some stupid excuse because I was afraid. I was literally afraid, and I'm not ashamed to say that. These things affected my life in such a negative way. I didn't hunt anymore. I stopped hunting. I stopped going on my brook fishing adventures where I'd follow a brook for miles catching trout, and which I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about hunting and the outdoors. And those two terrifying encounters early in life really had a bad effect on my life. And as of recently, I got a divorce and left Unity, left the farm, and, basically started a new life here in town and started hunting again. But I go with my cousins or friends, and I don't go alone. I still won't go alone. And, I guess it still affects me to this day. We're talking like a 30-year span of time, and I'm still affected by it. I mean, I won't go camping alone. That never used to bother me as a kid. I'd go set up a tent and, camp, in the woods. And, when you're young, you're fearless, and, you're immortal when you're young, and that stuff nothing's going to happen to me. And I know all the animals around here, nothing's going to hurt me, nothing, and you go out camping in the woods with just a little pocket knife. I mean, you ain't afraid of nothing, But, like I said, that just put a bad negative, vibe on a lot of my outdoor life, my outdoor activities, my I love being outside. I work outside to this day. I'm still outside. I love to be outside working, but you won't catch me in the woods at night alone, or even if I was with a friend walking down a trail at night, man, I am freaked out. I will get freaked right out. I have these episodes of PTSD or whatever, and I deal with it my own way and trying to get over it. It's taken a while, but things are good. I mean, I haven't had any encounters as of lately. I did see something a couple of years ago. I think it was I believe it was a young one. It was about 4 to 5 feet tall. I was deer hunting. I was right behind my place of employment. See, I wasn't really far in the woods. I was just like right outside of the parking lot where I parked my truck. I walked in the woods about 100 yards away from the shop, and I was sitting there in a little spot. And everything was quiet. It was deer season in New Hampshire. Beautiful fall day, warm. We had an unseasonably warm fall that year. So I wasn't all like bulked up with clothing. I had, a regular t-shirt on and a long sleeve shirt and pants. And I wasn't all, bunkered up with cold weather clothing. Normally up here in deer season, it's cold. During rifle season, but so I'm sitting there and I'm sitting on a rock, which was underneath some hemlock trees, and I was really concealed really well, and I wasn't moving. And I was in the perfect spot. I was sitting right alongside this old gravel road that went down behind the Claremont landfill. Back when I was a kid, they used to have a landfill here in Claremont. And it's up on a big hill, and you'd have to drive your car up to the dump, and then you get up there and get your ticket or whatever, and then drive down this road all the way down to the bottom by the Sugar River. And that's where the road came down next to, and not close, but it's the bottom of the hill, this big hill. Well, that hill right now it's a hill, but back in the day it was just all landfill. And they're burying all the, it's horrible what they did. They just bury the trash and bury it, burn it, bury it, whatever. So now it's not a landfill anymore. It's all covered up, and it's just all a green, big green slope. And there's thick, nice hardwoods and stuff on either side. And I'm sitting there, and I noticed that there was a lot of good deer signs. So I'm sitting right there, waiting to see something go by. And I'm hoping something comes by. And I'm being real quiet. And I hear a gunshot. Pow! Right down below me. And I knew that there was a hunter down the road. I see his truck every year, so I know that he hunts down there. So I don't bother going that part of the hill, because I know that there's a guy hunting down there. So I I don't want to molest anybody's hunt or anything. So I stay up further up towards the top of the hill, and I'm up there, and I'm hunting alongside this, like I said, this old gravel road. And after I heard that gunshot, I was looking down the road because I caught movement, and I see what I thought it was like a couple turkey. We have a lot of turkey up here, so it wasn't nothing to me. It was no big deal. Oh, that gunshot must have spooked some turkey or whatever, I was like, cool, all right, well, whatever. Maybe a deer will come by. I was waiting to see a deer because I heard the gunshot, so I was hoping something was going to come running by or come my way anyways. I had a long view of this road, a straight. I was sitting like right on the 90-degree corner of this road, and I'm right off of it about 10 feet, and I'm totally concealed with camouflage, and I'm underneath trees and sitting on a boulder. And I see these. I'm looking to my side. I'm looking both sides, left and right. And I'm looking all around, trying to be real quiet. And those things that I thought were turkey were now getting closer. They're coming right up the road. I was like, wow, these things coming right up the road. Cool. So I wish it was a deer though, whatever. I see turkey all the time, hundreds of turkeys. So I didn't, I was just sitting there kind of hoping a deer would come by. I'm looking. And as this thing gets closer, what I thought was a turkey, now I realize this is not a turkey. What is this? It's walking on two legs. It's got his arms freaking bent in a 90-degree position with his wrists, limp. His hands were hanging down. And it had hair on it about, I'm going to guess, like 2 inches long. And its skin, I saw not like a frontal, and not like, I didn't see him face to face, like head on. I saw more of a profile as he was walking up the road and I'm on the corner, right? And I call it a he, I don't know why, but it was walking up the road around that corner. And it's right in the middle of the road. It goes right in front of me. But of course, now I'm seeing it through the branches of trees. Okay, so I'm just getting little clips of it here and there. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting little bits and pieces of it. But then there was an area where I could see pretty much the whole thing. When it got pretty much right in front of me, I could see the whole thing. And it was like I said, it was like a 4.5 to 5 foot person, all covered in 2-inch shiny black hair. Shiny, like clean shiny or oily shiny, like clean, like almost like my dog's hair. Blazer was jet black hair. It was like that. It had what they call a almond shaped head. I wouldn't call it a coconut shaped head. It was had more of a, I don't know, it was just a weird shaped head like that. Wasn't really elongated or nothing. It was just kind of pointed, round, but kind of pointed. And I don't recall seeing ears. I might have, but like I said, the hair on his head was 2 to 3 inches longer than what was on his arms. And it almost looked like he had bangs, that come over his eyebrows a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And the skin on him was jet black. The skin on him was like black leather. I do remember that. It was shiny too. It had like it was like in the sunlight. It was shiny kind of, like leathery skin, but not worn leather. Like polished leather. It's kind of had a shine to it, like greasy or something. But anyways, it was black skin, and his hands were black. Like the skin on his hand, his fingers and shit, they were black. And his face was black. And he had hair kind of like on his, it was really quick. I got a quick vision of him, quick look at it. But I could see how there was no hair around the eyes or the nose. I really couldn't see a mouth. And maybe just because of the way he was moving, he was going past me, I just really didn't see a mouth. I just got a glimpse of the side profile of, the nose and the cheekbone and, part of his, the side of his head. But what really freaked me out was the way this thing was walking. When it was coming around the corner and going right by me, it was walking like it was in stealth mode. And this is fall time, deer season. There's leaves all over the ground. You couldn't hear this thing walking. I couldn't hear it walking up the road. And that dawned on me later after the encounter. I was like, man, that thing never even made a sound, And there was actually 2 of them. There was like this 4 to 5 foot being or whatever. But there was also something low to the ground next to him. Same color, jet black. And I don't know if that thing was on all fours or if it, I really didn't get a good look at that. I just saw a part of that thing. What they did is they walked up the road and they turned. That's because they're following the road. They're right in the middle of the road. And the road goes up to the top of the hill, and it goes to where they dump all the trash and stuff in dumpsters. And there's also 2 houses. There's a house right next to the landfill area. Then they have a neighbor next to them. And then the place of employment where I work is right next to, the second house there. So I'm thinking at first, I'm like, is that a homeowner or something? Landowner? Who is that? Is that a kid with a hoodie? What was that? Because it was like, kid size, Well, what they did is they walked right in front of me. And I'm sitting there with a loaded 308 on my lap. I could have blown a hole right through it. But I was like, I thought it was a person or something at first. When I saw it, I'm like, wait a minute, like, what is this? Who is this? What is this? And I just couldn't believe what I was looking at for about 3 seconds or whatever. I got a look at this thing. And what it did is, I don't know why it did this, but it turned to its left and went right into the woods across the road from where I was. Like right where it got to me, it just did a complete friggin' 90 degree and went right into the woods. And I thought it was going like uphill. So I'm just like kind of sitting there like freaked out, holding my rifle. I'm like, what do I do? Do I bull rush it? Do I go out and see what that is? What if it's a person? What if it's someone that owns this property or whatever? What if it's a kid? I don't know. What do I do? Screw it. I'm going to run out. So I run out from where I'm sitting. I run right out into the road and I start yelling, hey, who's there? Hello. Because basically I didn't want to get in trouble for being on property I'm not supposed to. So I figured I'd make myself known and let somebody know that I'm hunting over here. And, is it okay? And, yada, 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 the whole 9 yards. So when I come out into the road, I'm like, hello, hey. I didn't see nobody. So I went directly. I followed that same path that thing took right into the woods. I went right into where it went into. And I'm looking up into the woods. And there's absolutely nothing. I don't see nothing walking around nowhere. I don't see 2 things that I just saw. I don't see them anywhere. And I instantly thought those things went in the trees. I started looking up into the trees everywhere. But like I said, this is New Hampshire, and it's thick country, thick woods. But I'm trying to look into every tree I can see, looking up. I'm looking all around. Where did those things go? They were like right here. They were literally like right here. I'm like 3 seconds behind them. Where did they go? You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. Like, they just up and disappeared. I think they jumped up into the trees or something, because I would have seen them on the ground. I did a grid pattern search all through this little stretch of woods. It's like a little island of woods on the side of a big grassy slope. And I did a grid pattern in them woods. I'm looking, man. I'm searching hard. I'm looking for tracks, and I saw where the leaves were scuffed up and stuff. And, but turkey are in there and deer, so I couldn't tell what was what. But I'm like, well, they went right through here, but where did they go? I'm looking all around, man, and it was like they jumped into trees or something. They were hiding. They were literally hiding on me. But it had black hair, black skin, short black hair, like on its arms. You could see how the hair came off the arm like 2 inches. The whole body's covered in hair. It kind of resembled like a chimpanzee, but with black skin, but doesn't walk like a chimpanzee. It walks like a person, but yet it has it had a weird walk to it. Like it was trying to be sneaky, but the way its arms were, the way it held its arms when it was walking it was typical of the Bigfoot things you see, the pictures with their hands like hanging down. It was just bizarre. That's all I can say. And I don't know where they went. I don't know what they are, what it was. I'm guessing it was a young Sasquatch, but that's just a guess, Did it look like? It looked like a young Patty from the Patterson film. Looked like a young one, Patty was a close description of it. Of course, Patty's big. Patty's like whatever, 700, 800 pounds, whatever they were guessing, whatever. But this thing was on a small version, but it had hair like the Patterson film. It had hair like Patty. And the head was kind of similar. The skin was black. And the eyes were black. I couldn't even see the eyes because of either the brow ridge and the hair. Not really, both of them combined. It was just all shadowy right there, real shadowy, Couldn't see no eye shine or nothing like that in the light. Now, this is a daylight sighting. This is like 3 in the afternoon, 2:33 in the afternoon. I saw these two beings, and they disappeared, like pretty much right in front of me. And so, like I said, I backed out of there instantly. I got all spooked out, freaked out like that. I backed out, went right to my truck, loaded all my gear in my truck, and I even had a little ground blind on my where I work, in place of employment on the property. I had a little brush blind there with a chair in it and stuff. When I backed out of there, I grabbed my chair, I grabbed all my stuff out of my little hunting blind. I left, and I haven't been hunting back there since. And I haven't told anybody at work about it because they already know about my Bigfoot encounters, so they probably think I was crazy if I told them what I saw out back there. But it's all woods out there. It's all woods, and it follows it's the Sugar River Valley, right out behind my place of employment. There's a hiking trail out there, and there's all sorts of ATV trails all over New Hampshire. You can get from anywhere in the state of New Hampshire. There's spider-webbed trails throughout all of New England. So I don't know where this thing went. It went up in the trees. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it went. Really a bizarre thing. And of course it didn't, it wasn't spooky or nothing. It wasn't scary and terrifying like the mother encounters. This was just an amazing eyewitness. I saw something that I guess, like people think, they're not supposed to exist. Well, they do, These things are real. I've had these encounters. I've had these things happen to me. I've had rocks thrown. I've been screamed at, chased down a mountain. I saw these things deer hunting. I could have blown his friggin' head off with that 308. I could have put the dime right on it, lights out. But I'm like, what if that was a person in a weird friggin' fur coat or whatever? I don't know, like what would happen if I shot it and then the parents show up, and rip me apart, or I become one of those 411. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't dare shoot it. I was like just looking at it, like I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I didn't even think about shooting it. The thought crossed my mind. I said, if that thing comes after me, I'm shooting it. You know what I mean? But I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I haven't been back there since. It's been 2 years. I haven't hunted that area yet since. I don't want to see that. I don't want to run into their parents or whatever, or maybe their guardian or whatever. No. I just want to leave those things alone and, let them be, and hopefully they let me be. I mean, I haven't run into any of them or had any really scary experiences as of lately or anything. And I've been deer hunting, every year now with my cousin, and I don't go alone anymore. But I usually hunt with my cousin every year, like every day that I go hunting, I'm with him. We got some good spots. We get deer every year. But man, the only time I was like, you know what? I'm going to just go sit behind the shop before the sun goes down, and, maybe I'll get a chance at something. There's a lot of deer around here. So, it's a good spot. I'll go check it out. And lo and behold, I mean, I don't get it, but the day that I went and did that and sat there by myself down there, sitting there for a couple hours, and I see that thing, and then the darn thing disappears in front of, like, just goes up into the woods a little ways and disappears. I don't even know where it went. Went behind some trees, and I didn't see it no more. I run up through there, did a grid pattern, didn't see nothing. I was like, okay, I'm out of here because I don't know if they ran away or if they're hiding. I don't know. I'm getting out of here. I don't want no part of this. It's not what I signed up for. I was like, no one's going to believe me. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. That's what I saw. So it is what it is. I wish those things never happened to me, but they did. And this year coming up, it's September now. And we got deer season coming up, and I'm telling you, I'm going to be with my cousin, and I'm not going out alone this year either. I made my mind up. Not after what happened last year. I'm done with that. I'm just, no. So that's pretty much the gist of it as far as my encounters and what I've seen up here in New Hampshire. And I appreciate you letting me share what I've seen and what I've heard. And I guess that's pretty much, the size of it, I mean, I'm glad nothing happened to me. I'm glad nothing happened to my dog. Man, yeah, when I think about it now, it's like, whoa, it all comes back, it's just like it was, it's just clear as like it happened yesterday. Whenever I do think about it and discuss it, everything's as clear as like it just happened yesterday. And I'm talking about even the stuff that happened 30 years ago. It's burned into my mind. It's never gone away. And that's what I've been, I've heard other people's encounters, and like when they see it, it's burned into their mind. They can't erase it, And I think that's true. When you have a paranormal experience like that, or whatever you want to call it. You want to call it a strange encounter or a strange experience or, whatnot, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's real. It is what it is. I mean, I saw something that shouldn't be, and I wasn't alone. I had a coworker who was right there with me. Bless his soul. I don't know where he is today, but, God bless his soul for, hanging in there and not falling down or being a 411 or whatever, it's all I can say. I'm glad that there was a witness to the Mount Ascutney event. I'd like to see him someday and talk to him about it, just to see if he's okay, and how you doing and how you been all these years, and how have you coped with it, and and you gotta, and I want to know what he saw, because he saw it, and I really want to know what he saw. But I never want to run into it ever again. I never want to hear that for the rest of my life. I never want to hear that sound ever again. Not like that. Not at 10 feet, And as far as these Bigfoots go, I'd like to see one, but from a distance, safely from a distance, Even a roadside crossing for me would be too close. I don't want to be that close to them. I'd rather see them from a distance and just watch them do their thing and let them live their life and go on their way. Well, that's my story, Vic. And, yeah, I appreciate everything.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let us know. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, love's in the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. The sound of a memory brings me back to the bluegrass playing on my dad's 8-track. It's pick 'em and it been through it. Getting Through the day on Scruggs and Skags, booking hay bales to those Tennessee jams. There's no other way that I do it. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something calling backwards and double time, looking at the soul in the tremolo Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Pace of the city life drives me wild. The only tune is the cars rushing by, with the bass on the stereos booming. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Something going backwards and double time, looking at the soul in the tremolo Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Something going backwards and double time, looking at the soul in the tremolo Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm, ride chicken porch swing, mama's best sweet tea kind of sound.